Hi. Welcome to our YouTube channel. So, in this video series, we are solving some logical or tricky questions. We are using Java as a programming language in NetBeans IDE. So, the questions are, some of them are from Maharishi University entrance exams, and some of them are from leetCode.com website. So I will implement, or I will solve questions selectively. Most of them are on the easy category right now that we are solving, but will grow up. So leetCode has 3 levels: easy, medium, and hard. So we have started from easy. So today we have a different question. It's to check if the given string is valid or not. I'll explain it a bit more. So the inputs are, these are the inputs. So the question is, any string that's given has to be a valid string if it has an opening and closing tags. Let's say this is a valid string. This is not, because this has one open and close and one open. This also is not correct. Now this has equal number of opening and closing characters, braces, but they are not in order. Every time opening character comes first and then closing character. But this scenario is also possible if this is the case. This means this closes itself, then the outside closes itself as well. But if we did this, then it's not valid. Okay, I hope you found the idea behind. So let's take another example. This is valid, this is not valid. Okay, so this is the question. I hope it's clear. Also, if you want to have more clear idea of the question, I will put the question link on the description, so you can go check the question. So now let's create a Java project. Check if string is valid or not. Finish. Now this is the question. So there are a few concepts that I need to clear out, okay, or that we are going to follow to solve this problem. There are a few guarantees. Okay? One is the item or the string cannot be empty. That's one. If it's empty, we don't ignore it. We'll return true. But if we're going to check if the string is empty without any opening and closing characters, we return true. Okay. Other than that, always the string has to be even number. The length of the string has to be even number, always. If it's odd, then one opening or one closing is missed. So we can automatically return false. We can automatically make sure that the string is invalid. Okay, so these are two. One is if a string is empty. The other if string length is odd number. These are automatically, we can detect them. For this, just return true. I'm returning true because there's no fallacy here. The string is a valid string. For this one, if the length is odd number, then one opening or one closing is missed, so I can automatically return false. Now after this, we have to check. We have to read each character in the string, and we have to make sure that the opening has its closing before another one closed. What I'm trying to say is this is a valid string, as we have said. Okay, but this one does not. Now if you check our two validations, it's not empty passes, it's not odd number, the length is even number. The length is 6 characters here, right? 1 2 3 4 5 6 characters, so it's even. So we have to go further. What we have to make sure that is the question states that it has to be in order. Each brace has to be closed before others. That means this is an open parenthesis, it's closed somewhere, no problem. Like, let's take this one, and if this is like this, then this is an open tag, this is an open tag, so its next is not a closing tag but an opening tag. It's better if it's a closing tag, but another opening tag will also be accepted as long as the next one is a closing tag for this one, so it cancels itself. So automatically the next one will be this one's closing tag. Okay, but for this one there is an opening, there is another opening, it's fine. There is another opening, it's fine, but the closing tag should close this one, the immediate opening. Before closing this, the immediate opening, we can't close the other one. So the string would be correct, or the string would be valid if it's like this. If this is the given string, it's a valid string because it's an opening, opening, opening. The next closing will close the immediate closing opening, so it cancels itself. This one also closes this one, so it cancels itself, and this one is also closed, so we have a valid string. Okay, so that's what we are going to do. Now let's create our function. Public static, it's going to return boolean true or false. Is valid is the function name, and will be given a string. So this is our function. So as we have said, first we have to check these two conditions, because these two conditions are a deal breaker. Okay, so let's do that, and we'll continue with the conditions that we have to check. If given dot equals, if it's a string, as you all know, Java recommends equal function rather than using the equal sign. So if given is an empty string, then we can automatically return true. There is nothing to check, but the string is a valid string. There is no mistake. Given dot length mod 2 equal to 0. Oh, sorry, there should be an opening here. So this means it's even, right? So we can convert this one not equal to 0. So if given dot length, the length of the string, the given string, divide by 2 returns other than 0, then it's odd number. If it's an even number, then any numbers, any string's length, any number, which means Any number divides by 2, remaining has to be 0. If remaining has to be 0, it's even. That's how we check for even numbers, right? This one is not divided by. It's not a division sign, it's a mod sign. It returns not the division value, but the remainder or the remainder value after the division. So if we did given.length, if given.length, the length of the given string is 6, then when we divide 6 by 2, the remainder is 0, right? That means 6 is even. Any number divided by 2, if the remainder is 0, then it's even number. If the remainder is different from 0, then it's odd number. So if it's odd number, we can simply say divide by 0, return false. Now let's go for the next validation. Now we have checked the two major deal breakers. That doesn't mean we are done. Okay, we have to check for other conditions as well. So one of them is I have to check the font size. Okay, so we are fine. So the other thing is, every time if the given string starts from closing tag, then we are done. There is nothing to check. Do you agree? That means if it starts from this, it doesn't matter if you have a closing tag or opening tag after that. If we started from closing tag, then there's nothing to check. Automatically, I can say this string is invalid because this closing tag doesn't have a preceding opening tag. So it's automatically cancelled. So we can check that. So first, let's create a string value called first character. And on this one, we are going to store the first character from the given string. So the first character from the given string is found like this, right? Start from 0 and read one character. Okay, so if first character is an opening character can only be parenthesis, brace, if it's a parenthesis, or if it's a brace, or if it's a curly break. If it's a brace and a curly brace, sorry. So we have to check for all these three. First character that equals opening brace or opening curly brace or opening, sorry, I always misspell the signs, the name of the signs. So if this is the case, if the string starts with opening characters, opening brace, then we can go for we can check for other conditions. But if it's not, in else, we can simply return false. We are sure that the string is invalid if it doesn't start from the opening brace. Okay, so now our logic continues here. So if it starts with opening, then we have to keep working, or we have to keep checking. Okay, so what we are going to do now is, we have seen the first character is an opening, so we are going to check for the second and the third and the fourth. So we'll keep checking, or we'll keep reading each character and compare, right? So we'll see how we are going to compare. So what we are going to do now is, we are going to start a for loop, because we have to capture each character. So I starts from not 0, actually it has to okay, even though it's We have read the first character here. Let's try it with I equal to 0. I less than given character. Okay. Dot length I plus plus. Well, we're free to make mistakes, so we can anytime we can run our code and test it. So if there is any mistake, we can recheck. Okay, no problem. So in our for loop, we are going to read the current string. So let's declare current string here. Now in the for loop, current means here given substring. Now this one has to be I and I plus 1. Okay, it has to read one character at a time. So if I is 4, then the character is going to be so the character is going to be the 5th character, which means, okay, it's taking the index. Let's see the function signature just to be sure. So this is the function that we are using. It's saying begin index and ending index. So start from this index and end at this index. Okay, so the start point is I, then the ending is going to be I plus 1 after the next character, which means, okay, so we have current now. So what we are going to do is assume this is the string that's given. So we can check each character. Now the first character is opening character. I'm not going to check, or I'm not sure if the second or the next character is a closing tag. It doesn't have to be, right? Because this string is valid, as we have said. The only thing that we have to make sure is that if any time we found a closing character, its previous character has to be the opening character of the similar closing character. That's what we have to check. Okay, it doesn't matter if we have a bunch of opening characters like this even. Okay, so here we are going to create an array that we are going to store each opening characters. Whenever we found a closing character, then we can check if the previous one is if the previous character matches with it, and if it does, then we can cancel out, like we did here. When we solved this, what we did is, this is an opening, fine, this is an opening, fine, this is an opening, fine. Now this is a closing. What I have to check is, if it's a closing tag, its previous character has to be the opening tag of this closing character. If it is, then I can cancel out this and go for the next. If the next is also a closing tag, it doesn't have to be a closing tag, right? The question can be like this. So when we cancel this out, we might find another open character. So whenever we found open characters, we can collect, and then we can compare. We can store this one and check this. If this is similar to this, then we can cancel both. And when we check this and the previous, it matches, so we can cancel, and the final parenthesis will be cancelled. So if there is nothing to check, and if the opening characters list is empty, which means all opening characters are closed, so I don't have to check further. I can make sure, I can confidently say that the string is valid. Okay, so for that, let's create a string array here. This is an array to store openings, and the opening character has to be initialized with a size. The maximum size of this array can be half of the given string, right? Do you agree? What I mean is, let's say this is our character, this is our given string. Now the number of opening brackets and the number of closing brackets has to be equal, right? That's one thing we have to make sure. Okay, so to make sure that they are equal, then we can create the opening character, the opening array with half the size of the array. If the size of the array is 8, then I can create an array with size 4. If we have encountered more than 4 opening characters, then I can say that the string is not valid, because more opening characters are there means less closing characters, which means there will be open characters without closing characters, and that's wrong. If that's the case, then the string is invalid character. So to make sure, so we are safe that the string array size is going to be given.length divided by 2. We can make it given.length, doesn't matter, but it's going to waste memory. So we have to use our memory efficiently. Okay? Now, if the current character is an opening character, we can store it in our array. So if current, I think I can copy this one and change the first character with current, and this opening, and NetBeans will create the closing character. Okay, now what this means is if the current value you found is an opening character, okay, opening character of any type of the string, then store it in the openings array. So openings, now openings of I. Can I say openings of I? I cannot say that because I counts the total length. My array is half the size of that length. Okay, so we have to make sure that we count it differently. Let's create another counter. So opening of counter equal to current. Now counter plus plus. What if, now here, what if the current character is a closing character? This is the point, right? So if the character is, let's say, this is an opening, we have stored it, and this is another opening, stored it. Now we found a closing character. Let's say this is our opening array. First we have stored this, and then we found another opening character, so we stored that as well. Sorry, this one makes a confusion. So this is our array items. So we have stored 2 openings. Now the third one is a closing. What do? I have to make sure, or I have to check that this closing has to be equal to the last item in the opening array. If they match, then it can be cancelled out and look for the other items. The string is valid until now, so we can keep checking. But if I found a closing character like this, then when I compare this one with the last character, the last opening character, then this one is wrong. So I can make sure, or I can safely say that the string is invalid. Even though it's even like this, it doesn't work, right? It has to be, opening and closing has to be similar. So for that, in our else, we have to check if the current is this one and the last item in the array is the same. We have to check that. Okay, to check that, we can use Okay, so to check that, what we can say is, first we have to make sure that, or we have to identify if counter is a bracket, a curly bracket, or a brace. I don't know what this is. I don't remember the name. So let's say if current is opening brace, then the last item. Sorry, what is happening here? Oh, if current is like this, now the last item from the array has to be a closing tag for this one. Exactly similar, right? It has to be like that. So I can check that. I can check the last item from the opening array. Okay. So let's go here. If openings of counter -1, because I incremented counter to the next index, to check the last item, I have to minimize, or I have to say counter minus minus, because now counter is entered an item here and counter is here now, waiting for another item to be inserted. So if I want to check this item, then from this I have to minimize one. So I have to move one step back. Okay. So this item dot equals closing brace. Then it doesn't mean that the string is valid, but we have come this condition is verified, or the current item is correct, because its previous character is the opening tag of that character. Okay, so what we have to do is we make sure if this is similar to this closing tag. Then if it is, then we have to cancel it, right? Because it will create some confusion for me. Okay, so we have done this. So this is gone because I is incrementing. Okay, so after that, if I'm going to check for the next one, then I have to make sure that this item is removed. So this is gone. What I'm doing here, how I'm doing that is opening of counter -1 equals an empty string and counter minus minus. Now I have to roll back the index counter to its place, to the previous point, because this item is cancelled. It's here now, right? So if this item is cancelled, it can't be here. It has to step back, right? This minus minus is just for comparison. I'm not updating the variable. But if minimizing it and checking is successful, then I have to minimize the index as well, because I want to store. If I found any opening index, I have to store to the next index, and I don't want to waste space here. Okay, so this is for this type of brace, and we can copy paste that for the other type. What if the current one if the current one is a blocking one, so it has to be its opening. If it's a closing one, its previous has to be like this. And let's go for this one as well. So now we have completed all the three options, or all the three text characters. Okay, now one more thing. What if I found the current as a closing character for bracket, and its previous on the array is not equal to this? If it's equal to this, then it's a best case, so I can minimize one step. and I can keep checking for other characters as well. But if it's not, it's a deal breaker, right? So I have to say return false. This applies here as well. Here is similar. I think it's clear, right? Which means if I have this here, and if this is the closing one, then the closing one and the previous opening are not the same, then the string was like this, right? Because I stored this character here. Okay, so when I read this, it's an opening, so I removed it from here and stored it here. So now if I check this is not similar to this one, then it's invalid, because a string cannot be like this. Because if the given string has this type of order, then the string is invalid. So this works for all the three conditions. So we are done here. Now this will keep going until we have reached the last index, right? Now there is one condition to check. In here, we don't insert each opening character to our opening array every time. Why? Because we have to check if it has reached the maximum length. What I mean is, let's say this is our given string. If this is our string, this is even number, so it's fine. Here is an opening, here is an opening. Now this is size 6, its length is 6. Now the opening array length is going to be 3, right? Because we have made it half the size, because we are sure that if the string is a valid string, its opening and closing characters has to be equal. So if it has to be equal, then from the 6 characters, 3 of them has to be opening. But by any means, if the opening characters are more than that, then it's a deal breaker. Why? Let's see. This one has 4 opening characters and 2 closing characters, which means one opening character doesn't have a closing character. So every time when we found opening characters, we don't just put it here. We have to check if adding that item doesn't invalidate the string. Okay, what I'm going to check is if counter, because counter is the number of characters, right? But now I can check also if counter doesn't exceed the opening array. If counter is greater than or equal to opening array dot length. If this is the case, then I can safely return false, right? Because I'm sure that if counter has exceeded the array's length, then this line will return error as well, because we have created opening array with 3 characters, or the size 3, and I'm trying to insert a 4th one. Here I can say like this, but as you know, array counts from 0, right? Counter starts from 0, so it has to be -1, or I have to compare here equal as well. If it's also equal, then it exceeds the length of the array. There you go. This is how it has to be. Okay. Now let's go for other options. Now, if we complete this, now we have finished the conditions on the for loop. We can test it and we can check if we missed any point. Now, this for loop ends here. If the for loop is completed successfully, it doesn't mean that all the items are opened and closed. Okay, it might mean that if there are too many openings, I can detect it here because I'm inserting the opening ones. So if too many openings are in the string, then this if condition will detect it. This condition will not detect if we have too many closing characters. So too many closing characters will be detected here. If my closing character doesn't have a match. Okay. So here, to make sure that, let's say we have let's say we have a string. We have a string like this. So we have created open counters and we are deducting the counter whenever we found a match for its closing character, right? So this found its match, this found its match, and this found its match. So the final count of items, or the final number of items in our opening character, has to be 0, right? If it's not, somehow the string is invalid, right? So we have to check that as well. Now what I should do is this one completes our if condition as well. So here I can say if counter equal to 0, then I can safely say return true. Until now, all our returns okay. So let's minimize. So if counter until now, sorry for the breakup. Until now, we have all our returns to return false because we are working on the string and we are checking if we are checking for any wrong conditions, okay, that will make the string invalid. So after the for loop is completed and if counter is 0, then there is no opening character left and all the strings are completed and all the closing characters have a match. That means the string is valid string, so we have to return true, else return false. This is our code. Okay, I know it's a bit longer, but we have to understand, or we have to analyze all the possible conditions. Okay, so let's create a string here. Let's start from a positive test. Now, let's call this function and let's system.out the result variable. Now let's run it. It should return true. so it is true. Let's check for other conditions. Let's take this one. So this one has to be false, right? It is false because this opening character doesn't have a matching closing character. If we change this to this one, then I think it has to be true. No, it is false because this one doesn't have a closing character now. Now this is a successful string, I think. Yeah. So this one returns true. By the way, this function is an accepted solution on leetCode.com. So it have they have tested it in like 900 to 1000 test case conditions. Usually they will test each function with that number of inputs or that number of given data, just to make sure that it incorporates all the possible values. Okay, if it's a string, if it's an empty string, it's true. If it has only one opening, it's false. If it has only one closing, it has to be false. Okay, probably our function is correct. It's actually, as I told you previously, it's an accepted solution. So, but if you have a better solution, a more optimized solution, please put it on the comment section, and it will be a great opportunity to see a better optimized code. I'll be very grateful for that, and I'll state it in our next video. I'll acknowledge that. Okay, so if you have the source code, you can go to our website. It's freesampleprojects.com, but I will also put the link in the comment section, so you can check and you can go to you can see the code. But I strongly recommend that if you want to grow, if you want to advance your understanding, then I recommend you to practice this question first. Even don't try to follow the video, watching the video and practicing on your machine simultaneously. Don't do that. Just watch the video, have a concept, then try to implement it your way. It can be similar to this one, or you might have a different and better idea. That way, you will challenge your brain. Okay, but if you copied it, then it feels like it's similar to stealing. You have nothing. You will have nothing left in your brain, in your mind, for the further questions. Okay, and even the source code, don't see the source code or don't use the source code before testing. Okay, practice your own, and then you can go for the source code and see where you make mistakes or where it can be optimized, and give us your feedback. Okay, so thank you for watching. If you are not new to our YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe so that you will get notifications on our upcoming videos. If you have any comments, suggestions, please give us, write it in the comment section. Also, if you like this video, please hit like and share it to your friends. Thank you very much for watching, and see you in the next video.